There are moments in life that feel ordinary when they happen, moments so small they barely register, but later they return again and again, carrying the weight of everything that followed. For Chantel Oakley, that moment came on a quiet Tuesday afternoon in May. She was exhausted, sick, drained from working two jobs just to keep her family afloat. When 15-year-old Riley Crossman came home from school that day, she tried to wake her mother from the couch. Chantel snapped at her. It wasn't cruel, it wasn't unusual, it was human, but it was the last conversation she would ever have with her daughter. Riley Crossman was the kind of child parents hope for but rarely get. Kind-hearted, creative, gentle. She loved to dance, sing, and draw. She lived in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, a small, quiet town where people left doors unlocked and neighbors knew each other's routines. Nothing truly bad was supposed to happen there. Riley was the oldest of four siblings. She lived with her mother, Chantel, and Chantel's boyfriend, Andy McCauley. Her parents were separated, but she remained extremely close to her father, Lance Crossman. Her life, from the outside, looked stable, safe, predictable. She was also in love, or at least what love feels like at 15. Riley had been dating a boy from school named Hayden Lacey for about 8 months. They were inseparable. If they weren't together in person, they were on the phone, texting, FaceTiming late into the night. Riley believed Hayden was the person she would spend her life with. Her family liked him, trusted him. On May 7, 2019, Riley followed her usual routine. She went to school, came home around 3:30 in the afternoon, and walked into the house. Chantel was asleep on the couch, resting before her evening shift. Normally, Riley waking her was routine, but that day, Chantel was sick and irritable. She yelled at Riley for waking her up. Riley retreated to her room. Hours later, Chantel left for work, not knowing that argument would become her greatest regret. That night, Chantel returned home around 10 p.m. Andy was lying on the couch. Riley's bedroom door was closed. Chantel assumed her daughter had gone to bed early. Nothing seemed urgent enough to question. She went upstairs and went to sleep. The next morning, something was wrong. Every weekday, without fail, Riley would come into Chantel's room before school. She'd say good morning, let her know she was leaving. It was a small routine, until it didn't happen. At first, Chantel thought Riley was still upset from the day before. Then she remembered Hayden was leaving on a school trip to Washington, D.C. She assumed Riley had left early to see him. But when Chantel stepped into Riley's room, her stomach dropped. Riley wasn't there. Her glasses sat untouched. Her phone charger was still plugged in. Riley never went anywhere without either of them. The room felt wrong. Not messy, not clean, just disturbed in a way that was hard to explain. Chantel searched for a note, a message, anything. Finding nothing, she left for work, convincing herself Riley would be home by mid-afternoon like always. She wasn't. When Chantel contacted Hayden that evening, panic set in. Hayden told her he hadn't spoken to Riley all day. Their last contact had been the night before. That was the moment Chantel knew this wasn't teenage rebellion. This wasn't a misunderstanding. She called the police. At first, Riley was treated as a missing teenager, but when officers entered the home 2 days later, they saw what Chantel had missed. Bloodstains on the mattress, on the pillows. Small, but undeniable. The bedroom wasn't just disturbed, it was a crime scene. Riley Crossman had not run away. Whatever happened to her began inside her own bedroom, and the person responsible was likely never left the house. As investigators began piecing together timelines, they didn't yet realize that Riley had already left behind the most important clue of all, a message sent in fear during the final moments of her life. In part 2, that message would change everything. When investigators began looking into Riley Crossman's disappearance, they started where they always do: timelines. Who was home? Who wasn't? And who might have been lying? Chantel Oakley's movements were easy to confirm. 2 jobs, verified shifts, witnesses. She had been away from the house during the critical hours. Riley's father, Lance Crossman, wasn't there either. He lived separately and had not seen Riley that night. That left only 2 people with confirmed access to Riley in her final hours: her boyfriend and her mother's boyfriend. Hayden Lacey, Riley's 15-year-old boyfriend, was out of town on a school trip to Washington, D.C. Police contacted him early in the investigation. He sounded worried, cooperative. He told them he hadn't spoken to Riley all day and that their last contact had been the night before she disappeared. Because Hayden was a minor, officers arranged to interview him in person once he returned, only with his mother present. Andy McCauley, Chantel's boyfriend, was questioned next. His story was simple, almost too simple. He said nothing unusual happened that night, claimed he went to bed around 10 o'clock, denied any conflict with Riley. According to Andy, it was just another normal evening. But investigators know that when stories are rehearsed, they tend to sound clean. Real memories are messy. Rumors were already spreading through Berkeley Springs. Whispers that Riley didn't feel comfortable at home, that she avoided Andy when Chantel wasn't around, that something about him made her uneasy. So, investigators asked Andy directly, was Riley afraid of him? He said no. He even volunteered to take a polygraph test. The next day, Andy arrived at the police station ready to prove his innocence. But before the test could even begin, it was shut down. Andy was under the influence of cocaine. The results were ruled inconclusive, but the message was clear. He had been warned not to take anything beforehand. He did anyway. To investigators, this wasn't a mistake. It was avoidance, a way to muddy the process without outright refusing. Still, suspicion alone wasn't enough. At the same time Andy's test was failing, Hayden and his mother arrived at the station for their scheduled interview. Hayden sat quietly at first, nervous, soft-spoken. He talked about Riley with affection, how close they were, how often they talked, how much he cared about her. But when detectives asked about the messages they exchanged the night Riley disappeared, Hayden hesitated. Then he admitted something troubling. He had deleted their texts, all of them. He claimed he didn't want his mother to read them, said she disapproved of Riley, said she thought Riley had too much freedom. To investigators, it sounded immature, but also incredibly inconvenient. Deleted messages meant lost evidence. As the interview continued, Hayden began shifting blame. He criticized Chantel's parenting, talked about how Riley was allowed to walk alone at night, about how she dressed, about how she was given too much independence. Then investigators asked a simple question. Why did you tell us Andy might be involved? Hayden went quiet. Slowly, he removed his watch. Inside it was something he hadn't told anyone before. A message. Hayden explained that on the night Riley disappeared, they had been FaceTiming around 10:30. After the call ended, he went to sleep. When he woke later, he noticed a message time-stamped around 11:30, an hour after Andy claimed he was already asleep. Riley had written that Andy had entered her room. She said he had been listening to her conversation. And then came the final message Riley ever sent to anyone. I am scared. Those 3 words changed everything. They placed Andy inside Riley's bedroom after 10 p.m. They proved he had lied to police, and they revealed Riley's final moments weren't confusion or rebellion, but fear. From that moment on, the case stopped being about where Riley went. It became about what happened to her inside the house. Investigators immediately began verifying Andy's movements the following day. His employer confirmed he showed up to work on time. But then came a detail Andy had never mentioned. About an hour into his shift, Andy requested heavy-duty trash bags. Then he left the worksite for 5 hours. 5 hours no one could account for. When confronted, Andy's story began to collapse. He claimed he went to another job site, then said he stayed there all day, then admitted he left, but only to buy drugs. Each version contradicted the last. Investigators knew time was slipping away. If Riley was still out there, every hour mattered. And if she wasn't, the truth was already trying to surface. Because Andy's words were falling apart, but the roads he traveled that day were about to speak for him. In Part 3, investigators stop listening and start following the path he swore he never took. Once investigators uncovered Riley's final message, they stopped relying on statements and started relying on something far more honest: movement. Where people go often tells the truth their words try to hide. Andy McCauley had already lied about being asleep. Now investigators wanted to know what he did the next day, during the 5 hours he disappeared after leaving work. Andy insisted his movements were simple. He claimed he left the job site to go to another property called Red Hill, said he stayed there most of the day. According to him, there was nothing unusual about his route. But surveillance cameras don't forget. Traffic footage from nearby intersections captured Andy's green truck leaving the worksite. And instead of heading toward Red Hill, the vehicle traveled through a series of back roads that didn't match his story at all. One road stood out immediately: Tuscarora Pike, a narrow, winding stretch cutting through wooded terrain, steep slopes, limited traffic, the kind of place where something could be hidden and remain unseen. When investigators confronted Andy with the footage, he didn't deny the road existed. He denied its importance. He changed his explanation again, claiming he only lied because he was afraid police would charge him for drug use. According to Andy, the road meant nothing. Investigators knew better. Innocent people don't repeatedly adjust their stories to fit new evidence. Still, without direct proof placing Andy behind the wheel at that exact moment, police were forced to let him walk. But they didn't stop watching. Search teams were immediately deployed along every route Andy had traveled. Volunteers spread out across fields, forests, and steep hillsides. Teachers, students, neighbors, parents who imagined their own children missing. Berkeley Springs came to a standstill. While the physical search intensified, forensic results quietly returned from the lab. The blood collected from Riley's bedroom had been analyzed. What investigators learned was devastating. Andy McCauley's DNA was found mixed with Riley's saliva on a pillow taken from her bed. This wasn't casual contact. This wasn't contamination. To investigators, it suggested direct force. Riley likely attacked while lying down, smothered before she could fight back or scream. The pillow wasn't just evidence, it was a weapon. At this point, police were preparing to arrest Andy on charges of assault and kidnapping. But before they could act, the search teams found something no one wanted to find. On May 16, 2019, 8 days after Riley disappeared, volunteers searching near Martinsburg discovered black trash bags along a steep slope beside the road. Inside were human remains. The condition of the body made identification impossible at the scene. Severe decomposition had erased most recognizable features. But investigators already knew. The location was Tuscarora Pike, the same road Andy claimed he never drove. Within hours, Andy McCauley was arrested. The remains were transported to the medical examiner's office in Charleston, West Virginia. Dental records later confirmed what everyone feared. It was Riley Crossman. Because of the advanced decomposition, the medical examiner couldn't determine an exact cause of death, but the manner of death was ruled a homicide without hesitation. Investigators documented disturbing details. Riley's shirt had been pushed up around her shoulders. Her denim shorts were torn, unbuttoned, and partially unzipped. Her underwear was pulled unnaturally high, as if someone else had dressed her in a rush. Near the body were scattered screws. On her shoes was a white, chalky substance. That substance was later identified as commercial wall compound, the same material Andy regularly used at work. The screws matched those found in his truck and tool belt. Investigators reconstructed what they believed happened. Andy entered Riley's bedroom late on May 7th, likely under the influence of drugs. He attacked her from behind while she was lying on her bed, smothering or strangling her with a pillow. He suspected a sexual motive, though physical confirmation was prevented. Riley's mother later told police that Andy could become sexually aggressive when using drugs. After killing Riley, investigators believed he hid her body inside the house until Chantel left for work the next day. Then, during the 5 missing hours, he transported her remains and disposed of them along the roadside, like trash. The town that had searched for Riley now gathered to mourn her. Vigils were held. Classrooms went quiet. Parents held their children closer. But the case was far from over, because arresting someone is not the same as proving guilt. And as Andy McCauley prepared to stand trial, his defense would argue that despite all the evidence, the truth was still uncertain. In Part 4, the fight for justice moves into the courtroom, where Riley's voice would have to speak through evidence alone. More than 2 years passed before Riley Crossman's name was spoken inside a courtroom. 2 years of unanswered questions, 2 years of grief frozen in time, 2 years where her family lived between memories and evidence. On September 27, 2021, Andy McCauley finally stood trial. The man who had once shared a roof with Riley now sat accused of murdering her. The prosecution opened with a simple truth. Riley should have been safe in her own bed. They walked the jury through the timeline, step by step. The late-night message, Andy's claim that he was asleep, the evidence proving he wasn't, the 5 unexplained hours the next day, the lies that shifted every time police uncovered something new. They acknowledged what the defense would focus on. There was no murder weapon, no eyewitness, and no confirmed cause of death. But they explained why. Riley's body had been left exposed. Nature had erased details, not innocence. The medical examiner testified that smothering often leaves no definitive marks, especially when decomposition is advanced. Petechial hemorrhaging, internal injuries, signs that may have existed but were no longer visible. The pillow told the story Riley's body could not. DNA evidence showed Andy McCauley's genetic material mixed with Riley's saliva on that pillow. Prosecutors argued this could only occur during direct, violent contact. They described how Riley was likely attacked from behind, silenced before she could fight or scream. They returned again and again to Tuscarora Pike, the road Andy denied. Surveillance footage placed his truck there. The chalky wall compound on Riley's shoes matched materials Andy used daily. The screws near her body matched those in his tool belt. The trash bags matched the ones he requested from work. No single piece of evidence stood alone, but together they formed a picture Andy could not escape. The defense countered aggressively. They argued the case was built on assumptions, that police focused on Andy too early and ignored other possibilities. They reminded the jury that 2 adults and 2 children were in the house that night, and that another adult had been present earlier in the evening. They questioned the reliability of scent dogs, warning jurors not to confuse human remains with proof of a body in the truck. They emphasized the absence of a weapon, the absence of a definitive cause of death, the absence of eyewitnesses. Their message was clear: reasonable doubt. Then came the issue of mercy. Under West Virginia law, if the jury convicted Andy of first-degree murder, they could recommend mercy, making him eligible for parole after 15 years. 15 years, the same number of years Riley lived. Riley's father, Lance Crossman, took the stand. He didn't shout. He didn't perform grief. He spoke quietly about trust, about what it means to believe your child is safe when you're not there to protect them. He reminded the jury that Andy wasn't a stranger. He was supposed to be family. Where was the mercy when Andy walked into Riley's bedroom? Where was the mercy when she was silenced? Where was the mercy when her body was hidden in trash bags and thrown down a hillside? The courtroom fell silent. After closing arguments, the jury was sent to deliberate. Hours passed. No one in the gallery moved. Riley's family sat together, holding on to one another, knowing that whatever happened next would echo for the rest of their lives. When the jury returned, everyone stood. The verdict was read. Guilty of first-degree murder. Guilty of concealment of a body. Guilty of death of a child by a person in a position of trust. And when asked about mercy, the jury said no. Andy McCauley was sentenced to 2 life terms without the possibility of parole. Justice, at last, had a name, but justice could not bring Riley back. It could only ensure the man who took her future would never walk free again. In Part 5, we step away from the courtroom and look at what Riley's story left behind. When the courtroom doors closed and the verdict was finalized, the world moved on. But for Riley Crossman's family, time did not. Justice had been served, but grief does not respond to sentences or gavel strikes. Andy McCauley would spend the rest of his life behind bars, yet Riley would remain forever 15. In the months following the trial, Riley's bedroom stayed untouched. Her belongings remained exactly where she left them. Clothes in the closet, drawings on the walls, a life paused, not ended, at least not in memory. Chantel Oakley has spoken openly about guilt, about replaying that final afternoon again and again, the exhaustion, the illness, the raised voice, the moment she wishes she could erase. She knows, logically, that one argument didn't cause what happened, but grief doesn't follow logic. Riley's father, Lance Crossman, has described a different pain, the pain of trust broken, of knowing that the man living under the same roof as his daughter was capable of such violence, of knowing that Riley was afraid and that fear went unheard until it was too late. The town of Berkeley Springs changed after Riley's death. Parents locked doors more often. Teenagers questioned who they could trust. Familiar roads felt different, especially Tuscarora Pike. A stretch of asphalt that once meant nothing now carried the weight of a life taken and hidden. Riley's story became more than a case file. It became a warning. Schools began talking more openly about boundaries, about listening when children express discomfort, even when it involves adults close to home, about how fear doesn't always come with visible bruises or loud alarms. Sometimes, fear arrives quietly, in the form of a message. I am scared. Those 3 words became the most powerful evidence in the case. Without them, investigators have admitted the truth might never have fully surfaced. Andy's lies could have blended into doubt. The case could have stalled. The story could have ended without answers. But Riley spoke. Even in her final moments, she tried to protect herself. And in doing so, she helped expose the truth. Her courage did not save her, but it mattered. It mattered to her family. It mattered to the jury. And it matters now to every person who hears her story. Riley Crossman is remembered not only for how she died, but for who she was: a sister, a daughter, a friend, a creative soul who loved to sing, dance, and dream, a teenager who believed in love, a child who deserved safety. Her life mattered long before her name appeared in headlines, and her story forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Danger does not always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from familiarity, from the people we trust, from the places we believe are safe. If there is one lesson Riley's story leaves behind, it is this: listen. Listen when someone says they're uncomfortable. Listen when they say they're afraid. Believe them, especially when it's hard, because silence is where monsters survive, And voices, no matter how small, are how they are stopped. Riley Crossman's story is over, but somewhere, right now, someone else is trying to be heard. The question is, will anyone listen?